60 Minutes Rewind.
Immediately after President Trump's inauguration in 2017, arrests of illegal immigrants on the southwest border plummeted to lows that hadn't been seen in years. But 3 months later, with immigration reform stalled in Congress, the numbers started climbing again and have now returned to average. That comes to about 500,000 immigrants arrested a year. A great deal has changed on the border because of increased enforcement and control of the drug cartels on the Mexican side. Human smuggling has developed to an industrial scale. Illegal immigrants in the hands of professional smugglers find themselves trapped in a system of cruelty, neglect, and death. There was no reason to notice the trailer in Frio County, Texas, except for the voice of a woman crying, "We don't want to die." In 2015, the sheriff freed 39 men, women, and children overcome by heat. They were rushed to medical treatment, and this time, no one died. Eighteen-wheelers packed with people are discovered at a rate of more than 100 a year just in Texas. Last July, this one was found in San Antonio with well over 100 Mexican and Central and South American migrants inside.
It was eerily quiet. When the doors opened, I expected to see people standing. All we saw was people laying down.
Paramedic Cale Chambers reached for unconscious victims.
Extremely hot to the touch.
Physically hot to the touch.
Physically hot to the touch. People at the brink of death that were at the end of the rope, and then people that were alive but declining as we were there.
You were losing them.
Sure, yeah.
The trailer was designed to be refrigerated, so it was sealed tight. The cooling system was broken. 10 died, including 2 children. 29 were critically ill.
They're doing it out of a sense of desperation. People simply fear for their lives, and they have no other way of surviving.
Jeremy Slack is a researcher who has spent years interviewing immigrants in Mexico. He's a professor at the University of Texas, El Paso.
What is so terrible in Central America and in Mexico that it drives this migration?
Well, we have intense levels of violence, both in Central America and parts of Mexico, where the population has been targeted in a way that we had never seen before. Issues such as extortion are one of the main drivers for immigration, because gangs and drug cartels start extorting businesses, which eventually leads to the business being forced to close down. And now not only do people have no economic sustenance, but they also have people trying to kill them. And those two factors are incredible drivers of migration.
We met some of the immigrants when they surrendered to the Border Patrol.
¿Su edad, señor?
33.
A 16-year-old girl told us that she was threatened with rape by a gang in El Salvador. This boy journeyed 1,000 miles from Guatemala alone, hoping to reach his parents in Florida. They ended up in detention, where they can apply for asylum or eventually be deported. This traditional route, over the Rio Grande River and through the brush on foot, is the path smugglers often use to funnel immigrants to the 18-wheelers on the U.S. side. But many are lost here.
My wife came home from the grocery store at 5 o'clock one afternoon. Our dogs were playing with something in the yard, and it was a human skull.
Mike Vickers' South Texas ranch lies on the smugglers' routes.
I've probably got 500 pictures of different bodies. We didn't find all of those. Some of them were found by ranch hands, sheriff's department, different people.
500 over what period of time, roughly?
Since about 2004.
What's killing them?
The heat and being unprepared.
Eddie Canales works in the same county as Mike Vickers' ranch.
He crossed in through Piedras Negras?
Yes.
In 2013, Canales founded the South Texas Human Rights Center, which helps rescue endangered immigrants and helps identify the dead.
We came across the bodies of two men who apparently froze to death during a cold snap the other day.
They were young men. They were 18 and 19-year-olds. One was from Mexico and one was from El Salvador.
How often are bodies found around here?
Last year, 61 bodies were recovered.
That's the ones you know about.
That's the ones we know about. The sheriff here will tell you that for every one recovered, there's 5 still out there.
Of these survivors, some are led by smugglers to safe houses like these on the U.S. side, which were filmed by the Border Patrol. In days or weeks, their numbers grow until there is a truckload. The migrants aren't told about the 18-wheelers until it's too late, and then they are forced to board. We wanted to understand their desperation, so we traced a survivor of the fatal San Antonio truck 650 miles to his home in Aguascalientes, Mexico. 42-year-old Jorge de Santos Aguilar was pulled from the truck unconscious. He was in a coma nearly 3 weeks and in the hospital nearly 2 months.
You have a new little boy to support.
Oh, sí.
Was he one of the reasons that you went to America?
Pues sí, pues uno
Yes,
hace por él.
De Santos told us, I do it for him. Nearly half of Mexicans live in poverty. De Santos is married with 3 children in a small apartment. In Aguascalientes, he can make up to $300 a month, which doesn't pay the bills. In America, it's $5,000 a month. He's made the trip 4 times, worked in a factory, on a hog farm, and helped rebuild New Orleans after Katrina. For his last, nearly fatal trip, he sold his truck, saved money from his past trips, and paid smugglers $6,500.
No se miraba nada.
It was completely dark, De Santos told us about the trailer. There was no window, there was no light, there was nothing. It's estimated the 100 and more victims in the back of the San Antonio truck, baking in their own heat, pushed the temperature well over 120 degrees, which led to the 10 deaths and 29 critically ill.
Pues yo oía mucha gente
I heard a lot of people screaming, De Santos said.
que les daban, que
They
querían
wanted
agua.
water. There were some people saying that they wanted to die.
Ya personas que decían que ya se querían morir.
I heard a mom scream for her children.
Por sus hijos.
The torment lasted 3 hours.
Yo lo más, ya lo último que recuerdo ya
The last thing I remember, he told us, was calling out to God.
Is it more dangerous today than ever?
I would say so. There is so much enforcement in the areas that people were able to cross safely. It has pushed people more and more into places that are dangerous.
How much of this illegal immigration is controlled and run by the drug cartels?
They're kind of the regulatory mechanism. And they essentially set the rules, so to speak, for illegal activities in the region. It has led to this professionalization, this need to collaborate and coordinate with the drug cartels because they are the ones that are able to control how officials work. They know more about sophisticated ways of avoiding apprehension, avoiding enforcement.
The drug cartels own the border.
Definitely.
The story will continue after this.
Once migrants are over the border, their next challenge is effectively a second border of federal checkpoints. On major routes far north of Mexico, the Border Patrol operates a second set of screening stations. We visited one of the busiest 29 miles north of the border on Interstate 35.
That truck that was found in San Antonio came through here.
It did.
Jason Owens is the deputy chief at the Laredo checkpoint.
How did it manage to get through?
It's unfortunate, but the possibility of us catching every single thing to come through this checkpoint is just is not feasible.
The driver had his commercial license revoked.
Yep.
He came through here without a license. How is that possible?
So the agent on primary has just a couple seconds, given the amount of traffic that comes through. And so the agent, whenever they talked to the driver, didn't have that reasonable suspicion.
The x-ray was broken down that day.
Yes.
The Border Patrol wanted to show us the x-ray machine, but it was broken when we were there too.
I'm gonna go back and scan the other side. Yep.
When the x-rays work, they illuminate the horror. There were 200 people in this trailer. When high-tech fails, dog tech is ever reliable.
Earned it, how many? 2.
We watched 2 illegal immigrants sniffed out from behind the airfoil on the roof of a rig. Chief Owens told us that they would catch many more trucks, but there are just too many.
1.3 million of these vehicles comes through here, just cargo alone, every year. Another 1.9 million passenger.
In just this station?
This checkpoint alone, if this were a port of entry, this would be about the 3rd busiest port of entry in the entire country.
If you checked them all, commerce would stop.
Right. So part of our job as CBP is to facilitate legitimate trade and travel, at the same time securing our borders.
Smugglers recruit American drivers because they are less suspicious. We wondered how they find willing Americans, so we called one.
This call is from
Troy Dock,
an inmate at a federal prison.
Former truck driver Troy Dock is in a prison we were not allowed to visit. He told us he crossed the border to see the sights. A man befriended him and asked Dock to smuggle an abused woman and child across the border. After dinner and drinks, the man confessed that what he really wanted was to pay Dock $5,000 to transport a dozen illegal immigrants waiting at this safe house in the United States. When Dock arrived there, the dozen turned out to be 50.
Did you have any trouble at the federal checkpoint?
No, they just waved us through.
Hours later, Dock reached Dallas, but 2 of his captives did not.
They say 2 of them had passed away from a heat stroke, and the other one, I think, was in a coma or something like that.
How long are you supposed to be there in the federal prison now?
Till 2036.
The driver in the San Antonio deaths, James Bradley, pleaded guilty to transporting immigrants resulting in death. He will be sentenced later this month.
More Border Patrol agents. That's what we need here. We need at least another 150 agents here in Brooks County.
South Texans, including Mike Vickers, are improvising. Vickers organized the Texas Border Volunteers, 300 armed civilians who patrol ranch lands and call in smuggling activity. The volunteers have no legal authority, and they were investigated by the sheriff in 2014 for detaining and tying up illegal immigrants while waiting for the Border Patrol, something that Vickers says they won't do again.
Some people watching this interview are saying to themselves right now, he's an armed vigilante taking the law in his own hands.
We've heard that before. This is a massive invasion. We've been doing this for 11 years. There's been thousands of people that we've reported that they otherwise would have came in here scot-free.
Eddie Canales, the founder of the South Texas Human Rights Center, is focusing on rescue. He's set up more than 100 water stations.
You know, there are people who say you're encouraging illegal immigration by making it possible to get through here.
Well, I don't think I'm the overriding factor of why people come here. You know, there's people that are leaving their countries by, you know, being pushed out, you know, and they have no choice. I'm providing humanitarian effort and you know, so people don't die and that people don't suffer.